Here's the code we left off yesterday. We talked about adding a toString method that returns the values. This is called an accessor, the ability to access information. The reason we need accessors is because we've listed these as private. Some people might say, why not just list them as public, and then you don't have to worry about it? Everyone could access the information. You wouldn't need a separate method that's public to access the information. Well, you don't always want to give everybody access to every piece of data within your class. You want to be able to control how that information gets handled. If you make these public, then not only can people read them, but they can also change them. They can turn them into something else, they can change the values, and they could really mess up with your code. You want to be able to control how that happens. You want to be able to design it. So an object, is what we're building, has two main parts. Variables, which is the state or condition of the object, like we're talking about building a house. Are the cabinets going to be red cabinets, or the cabinets going to be green cabinets? Either color's odd, but you get the idea. Are you going to paint the house blue, or are you going to paint the house purple? Methods are the actions, the things that the object can do. And it can be passive things. Like with a book can turn pages. Yeah, the book doesn't turn the pages by itself, but the pages have to have some functionality to turn. Whether it's somebody else turning them or they're turning by themselves, doesn't really matter. They still have to have the ability to turn. The class is the blueprint for the object. So the object is the actual thing. Take these desks, for example. Everyone sits in a desk. The desks are actual objects, things that you can touch and feel. And this desk is different than that desk, which is different than that desk. Even though they all look the same. They're different instances of the desk class. There's some blueprint in a factory somewhere, or a CAD design, whatever, that is dictating exactly what these desks look like, what they can do. And if somebody wants to build a new desk, they implement that class. They construct the desk from the class by calling the constructor. And then we have an instance of the desk. So we're talking about two things here. One is the actual object that you do stuff with. The other one is the class, which is the blueprint for that object. We write the class as a separate file, like the book class we wrote. The object gets instantiated with the new command when you call the constructor inside of some other method, like the main method. So one blueprint can be used to make lots of houses, or one CAD design can be used to make lots of desks. So here's the basic idea, to create an instance. This object is an instance of a class. The class is book. The object is B. So the object we titled B. We can call it anything we want. We call it book 1. The type is B. This right here is the constructor. Remember, the constructor has to have the same name as the class. These are the arguments that get sent to the parameters of the constructor in the class. Lots of vocabulary words here. Arguments, parameters, constructor, class, object, instance. Instantiation. This is the process the computer goes through while creating the object. So we create a variable memory, B. It's of the type book. The new command instantiates, brings into existence the object B by using the book constructor. So there's now in memory a reference to a book object called B. So again, the basic idea. An object gets instantiated, a reference is created in memory, called B. The constructor is what is doing the work. The method in the class that builds the class in memory, sets the values, sometimes called properties or variables, has the same name as the class, and we can have more than one, which we'll talk about this later. So this is basically how it happens. The constructor builds the object. New is the command that returns the reference to the newly created object. And it also calls the constructor of the method in the class. And remember, these two have to be the same. Now I would like you to try. I'll put the code back up from the book class, but I would like you to create a class to hold a coin. I would like you to have a variable to store whether it's heads or tails, and we want an int. So let's use a 0 or a 1. That's how we're going to determine if it's heads or tails. You decide what you want to call it. You create the coin class. So I'm going to ask that everyone go ahead and give that a try. I'm going to put the code for the book class up here. And you could use your same main class, just add in a new constructor call, right? Create a coin, and maybe call it C equals new coin, and put in your, whether it's heads or tails to start, okay? So I want everyone to go ahead and try to create a coin class.